Excuse me. Has anybody seen White Rabbit?
That was a joke about the world being flat, right?
Was it?
Why does it seem like the further we go back in history, the more advanced we were? You're telling me people were so primitive they took a hammer and chisel and made this?
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
Buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye.
Welcome back, fellow truthers and conspiracy junkies, to another episode of White Rabbit. I am your host, Catalyst Jones, and today, unfortunately, we do not have the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Chris from Kill the Mockingbirds. The power is out in Michigan, so hopefully he does okay and his food does not spoil, but we're going to rock it without him because we got my friends and who I consider family, actually, some of the coolest motherfuckers. You might remember them. They've been on the show before. I have my homies, Jeremy and Amber, making a comeback. How is it going, guys?
Well, hello. Wonderful on our end. Thank you for having us, Catalyst.
It's been a great day so far. Just, I don't know, chilling, recovering from going to the river yesterday, enjoying ourselves.
Heck yeah. So for anybody that might be new to the show and didn't get to hear the last episode with you guys on, where can they find you and what is it that you do?
We are multifaceted artists, that's for sure. But we do like to dabble in multimedia and arts such as botanical mandalas. Our website is cosmicfractalmagnitudes.com. It's a mouthful, but it's beautiful if you learn to reiterate it. Yeah,
your guys' website is pretty awesome. If I wasn't a broke bastard, I would buy some stuff from you. But you guys definitely put so much, I wouldn't say time, because I'm sure you do put a lot of time into the stuff that you do, but you put so much of your soul into the stuff that you guys do. You could just see it, like it really means something to you. And that's what separates art from a hobbyist. And you guys are not hobbyists. You guys are truly artists. And I appreciate talking to other artists because I consider myself an artist too. And you're also conspiracy junkies. So you're in the right place. This is what we do here.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Love me some rabbit holes. So how's the business side of things going? Are you getting on any podcasts, trying to get it out there, or are you just shit posting on Instagram?
Oh, well, in the last month, I've had like 2 of my Twitters permanently suspended. So like they refused to respond to my appeal over the suspension. So I'm on like my 3rd Twitter account now. I definitely been doing plenty of shit posting. I don't know, just like really working on some ideas of some stuff that I want to do. I don't know, I got this really bad habit of looking at the Google, like the daily headlines on Google, and then like opening them in these tab groups and like reading through them. And then like I save them all because I'm the ones I find interesting. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to record like, you know, a little monologue about like this article that I found interesting and like talk about it on a video and post it. And then I never do. So I've got like,
oh, Amber, you got to kick him in the butt. Get him
I do. I'm with you all the time. I'm like, you just need to do little monologue videos of like your rants because I hear them all day and like, you know, sometimes I try to get them, but
well, it's kind of kicked me in the ass a little bit listening to Timcast because, you know, he talks about how he got started and he's just like, yeah, I was making these short videos with like my phone about these different things that I was interested in, you know, and want to talk about. And I'm like, fuck, dude, that's kind of like what I want, you know, that's like exactly what I could do. I don't know. I get this grand idea, like I'm going to do this show and I'm like going to talk about all these topics and like tie them all together the way I see them in my head. But like, honestly, it'd be
he's very
better.
grandiose in fantasy. And I'm always like, okay, what's the first step? But even yesterday when we went to the river, like we had almost like an existential conversation about the flavor blue
Oh
raspberry
shit.
because honestly it's not a flavor and we know that it comes from beaver sphincter, but
Whoa.
it's everybody's favorite flavor.
My favorite flavor is beaver sphincter. What the fuck? Please elaborate. I was gonna change the subject, but this is too interesting. So how do we this is like finding out that when you drink Red Bull, you're drinking bull cum. What how okay.
It's really simple. It's really simple. Like one of the things that they use to create certain
Artificial
no,
flavors.
not artificial flavors.
Natural
Here's
flavors.
here's the kicker. Because a beaver sphincter is natural
Right.
as an organic organism in nature, they get to call the flavor that they extract from it natural flavoring. And the flavor that it's mostly used for is vanilla and blue raspberry, as far as the research that I've done personally.
Oh, so vanilla too?
Yes, yes. And so like what it comes from is, I guess, like there's this pheromone or something that they secrete or whatever when they're like in heat or something to do with this, or like when they're scared, or I can't remember exactly what it was that caused them to create it, but it comes from the sphincter. It's a natural, like chemical in the beaver. It just kind of weird to me that like they use the stuff from the beaver sphincter for flavoring for food for us. But I also think that drinking cow milk is kind of weird.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I just think
We're the
drinking
only
milk,
species that drink
right,
milk, like especially from a different animal
right. That's the thing.
we're yeah.
Is like from a different animal, and like people look at me and they're like, "What, you want to drink human milk?" I'm like, "Well, I gotta say, it seems a little more natural to drink human milk than it does an animal's milk. Like, if we're gonna keep drinking milk past the time of breastfeeding, like, I'd say maybe we should be drinking human milk if we're gonna continue to drink milk past breastfeeding."
I mean, there are like anomaly cases of creatures like nursing other creatures
Out of survival
know,
necessity, like
but for us to, develop society around,
electively drink some random animal's milk.
it's a
Right. And most of it isn't even milk. Most of it is just pus, because it's like they're injected with so many hormones to be able to produce enough milk to keep going. It's been years since I've drank milk, and to look back on it, like my mom would like make me drink a glass of milk with every dinner, and I'm just like, oh my God, you were so indoctrinated. But I was too. So
well, there's an
we all
ancient
were.
technique for preserving milk, food in general. There's, it's culture actually, so it's not that odd. It's a harmonic balance between the cow and the owner. What's it called? Husbandry? What does it have?
Animal husbandry.
Everyone, it's not necessarily for me, but I understand where people are coming from.
what do you think about this vegan kick where people are doing urine what is it called? They're drinking their own urine.
Yeah, like I don't know, I've never been big into feces or any of that stuff. So like I'm kind of like, I've always tried not to get pee on myself.
Right? Oh, it's called urine therapy.
But hey, I mean,
Okay,
someone might hate on me for smoking weed, so I'm not gonna hate on anybody for drinking their own, as long as they're not trying to make me drink their urine.
Some people swear by it. They say that it's like it's a healthy detox for your body, and also if you ever like randomly, not randomly, but if you're like in survival mode and you're like stuck out in the middle of somewhere and you need to drink something,
I might resort to whatever keeps me alive if I'm that desperate to remain alive and for something to keep me alive at that point. But electively, I don't know, like I think water is pretty healthy for us, like as long as it's non-fluorinated clean water and stuff like that. Like, I mean, dude, it's so crazy though. I don't know, like I wrote this thing back in like, I don't know, 2013 or 14 about the state of world war that we're actually in, and like it just talks about it being a non-conventional warfare where we're being attacked through our food and our water, our media, our you know, our air that we breathe,
Injections,
our
medicine.
medicine, yeah, like, you know, we're being attacked from all these kind of indirect methods and stuff. So I mean, I don't know, dude, like we're all drinking stuff out of aluminum and using foil, you know, and like microwaves. And I mean, I don't even know, like I could probably name a bunch of stuff that I do that's horrible for me. I mean, like I don't even know where my clothes come from. I don't know where my food's grown. Like, I don't know, dude. Like there's like all this weird basic shit that, I mean, I really think that could be being done a different way, like that would be more efficacious, like, but also like just better in general, which I don't know, I kind of like efficacy and better in general kind of go hand in hand to me personally. But
It sounds like you know the boundaries where you can do better, because even naming off things like where your food and clothes come from are your battlegrounds. What is applicable to your day and day? You know, where can you per se use your purchasing power, which I don't think necessarily has to be money, but whatever medium of exchange, like being a consumer is even part of that.
like, if you ever looked and found, like, seen where hot dogs come from?
Ooh, I would not, and I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Need
You
to,
ever,
I mean,
assholes and lips, right?
I mean, like, there's like
Oh,
videos on it
nice.
and stuff, and I mean, so I don't know, maybe we don't want to know where our food is coming from anymore.
Well, I'm always scared that like they're saying how much beef America goes through every year, and then you look at like how many cows that are actually in the way that they mass slaughter these cows too is just disgusting. But
Yep.
are we even truly eating beef? Sometimes I wonder, you know, and it's not uncommon. I know that there's a bunch of different companies like Tazo Tea, Campbell's, that have actually that there is human in their fucking products. There's
Oh.
Nestle, and McDonald's has had how many countless people like with human teeth or like um,
Right. You start getting up into these multi-million, billion-dollar corporations, and they're allowed to have a certain percentage of human, fecal, you know, bug content in the mass production. And that's a very odd concept that definitely leads to the road of like Soylent Green. But at the same time, the road is literally paved by the consumer, not giving a damn. So the more we go to places like McDonald's rather than whatever the mom and pop Bob's Burger for your fucking town is.
yeah, I was watching so my boy Sam Tripley from Tinfoil Hat. I say my boy like I know the guy, but like I love his podcast. And he was on Joe Rogan yesterday, and they were talking about this lady who had taken a bag out of her car from like 2007 and put it in her closet, forgot about it, and came back to it this year. And there was a McDonald's cheeseburger in it, and it looked exactly the same. Like the bread was hard and everything, but it looked this. The meat did not rot. So like, what the fuck is? It's not meat. I mean, it's meat, but I don't think it's what we're told it is.
Embalming yourself alive.
I've been hearing about insects and like them using bugs as like a certain percentage of the meat in burgers, or like you know, when something says like beyond meat or like plant-based, I'm, you know, and I'm kind of like, well, is bugs considered meat or plant,
That's a
or
good
like
question.
could bugs be beyond meat? I mean, you know, I'm like, what is beyond meat? Like,
Well, a true vegan doesn't want to eat anything that you know is a living animal. I mean, I'm not saying plants aren't living
well,
things, but you know what I'm getting at. So like they wouldn't they wouldn't agree with that. They wouldn't want to eat bugs. And
And
now we
like,
have these celebrities pushing this whole bug agenda on us too,
yeah,
because they're trying
yeah.
to get us away from eating meat. We got Monsanto's that has their hand in just about every fucking food product that we buy. China and Bill Gates have bought up just about 80% of the farmland in California, which is ridiculous that an outside country is even buying up farmland in our own country that hates the United States. So like, somebody's got to raise an eyebrow to that. I mean, I really, really feel that the only way that you know you're truly eating healthy is if you're growing your own shit or you're going to farmers markets. Even then it's questionable, right? But if you want to eat meat, you go to your local butcher. You know where your shit is coming from.
Right.
It's it's really scary. And I think that it's all part of this 2030 agenda. Like, you will have nothing and like it, you will eat bugs, you're going to live on top of each other. And that's another thing that pisses me off is they're trying to tell us that we're overpopulated and overcrowded. No, the cities are overpopulated and overcrowded. Have you ever drove like from Northern California to Southern California? It's wide open. You ever drive from the East Coast to the West Coast? It's wide open. We are not overpopulated. Our cities are overpopulated, and we're not meant to live on top of each other like that. It's just not natural. And now there's this thing in I forget where it is. Sean posted it, and they're actually building, it looks like the Great Wall of China, but what it is it's going to be like an enclosed city basically, with housing units and everything, and like a speed rail and stuff, so that it's supposed to be like lighter on the environment. But they're basically making people live inside this freaking like miles and miles long wall.
In Saudi Arabia or something.
Yes,
Yep.
that's where it is. Yep.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jeez.
That was a headline there. You know, I saw some other interesting things too, like China is the #1 exporter of wheat. And Russia and Ukraine are just behind them. And then you know, like Russia is one of the biggest exporters of fertilizer, you know. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, you know, if there's animosity and you're like putting the trust of your food production and then the production of your food to these people who are supposedly our enemies, I just can't help but wonder to myself, like, what, you know, how does that make sense? Like,
dude, the Chinese are fucking brilliant. It's infiltration from within. You know, if you're not going to be able to bomb your enemy, like, what is the best way to kill people? Like, they're not only killing us with all the fentanyl that they're sending over here and poisoning, and I mean, that's the true pandemic, is fentanyl out here is killing way more people than COVID ever dreamed of killing. And then they're poisoning our food. God knows what they're spraying in the skies on top of us that we're breathing in, you know. Have you guys ever seen that movie? Why does the name of this movie always escape me? The Giver.
No, but there's a book.
Yes.
It's based on a book, and like my sister read the book and it made like a huge impact on her. So she's told me a bit about it.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. So what they did is they built a civilization that was cut off from the rest of the world as an experiment. And every time you would have, like, you're not allowed to, like, there's no words such as love. You're not allowed to say, you know, and so it's thought police. And then every day before you would leave the house, the door wouldn't open unless you put your wrist over this thing and it injected you. And so this kid, he gets smart and he puts an apple over it to get the injection. And then all of a sudden, they see black and white. They don't see colors. Yep. And then all of a sudden, after he starts doing that for a couple of days, he starts seeing colors and he's like, whoa, what the fuck is this shit? Yeah. And I think that they hide the truth in movies. And I think that that's similar to what they're doing to us, because we definitely have more potential than what we're given right now. And I think that the things that they're spraying in the air and the poisons that we're putting into our bodies from our foods and stuff is an inhibitor from us being able to reach some of these things that we're actually capable of. I mean, because some people are capable of amazing things, like
Innately.
and it's just, and I'm to the point now where I think that they're scared of us, knowing who we truly are and what we are truly capable of, because once we figure that out, then it's game over for them.
Well,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
No,
go ahead.
you go.
No, go ahead.
I think the ultimate idea is to make us all afraid of our neighbors. Don't know your neighbors. You know, they want to break down the basic fibers of society.
Don't know yourself.
And that is ultimately why you would not trust your neighbor, is if you didn't know yourself.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, not even to have the discernment, you know, to if you don't know yourself, how do you know that your judgment is accurate? So if you don't know yourself, how easy for you is it for you to just trust the authority, because you don't even know what you would decide in any kind of situation. You're just, you know, you're like, it's convenience autopilot. I mean, it's the zombies that we see around us in the day to day, and like, you know, they don't have to be zombies. It's just that's it's about communicating and understanding. Like, it's really interesting. I've been hearing a lot of the people that Tim's been having on his show talk about the reason that so many prominent individuals in politics, media, economy, stuff like that, see this nation coming to a civil war is because there is no dialogue, there is no communication, and there's the zealots on both sides, but like, I gotta say that when I see these people who lean to the right come on his show, they're definitely interested in entertaining the perspectives and dialoguing and like trying to come to some understanding. Like, Tim Key always says, oh, I'll have less people come on my show. You know what I mean? Like, I want to create a dialogue. I want understanding. Like, so when one
Right. We got you.
when one side refuses to listen, you know, when you want to like bring up evidence, when you want to have like a logical discussion, and they just want to like scream and yell and break shit, I see a problem with that. And like, it's just crazy. It's so obvious when you see all these protests going on by the left, and I don't know, they just burn shit and get away with it. You know, like, the police are told to stand down. Like, this guy who has to shoot somebody to defend himself can't even turn himself into the police that are in the immediate vicinity. It's all insanity. And then the right wants to protest at the Capitol for a day, and like, it gets out of hand with a few people, and they want to like just hang everybody.
Right.
No,
Well, those few people were actually agent provocateurs anyway.
there you go.
As it turns
There you
out.
go.
Yeah.
Who
I mean,
would have thought?
And it sucks, but going back to the dialogue, you're right. You're totally right. They're doing everything possible to shut down people from having these meaningful conversations, because at the end of the day, look, I know everybody has somebody from the left and probably somebody from the right in their family, but when you sit down at the dinner table and actually and even that is very difficult because families are being broken up right now because of this shit. But when you sit down and you're able to have a logical discussion about stuff, we're going to find out that we're really not that different, and we really do want the same things. It's just that the things that we are engulfed in and that we choose to put our focus into and surround ourselves with is going to impact how we feel about certain things. And unfortunately, with the left, it's and I don't want to say everybody on the left, because I'm sure there's a lot of good people on the left, but it just seems to be the majority right now are acting erratically because they're not acting on any kind of a thought. They're acting on impulse and emotion. And when you act out of emotion, you act irrational. And I don't care what kind of emotion that is. If you're super happy, if you're sad, if you're pissed off, I wouldn't, maybe not so much happy, but even at that time, sometimes But when you're pissed off or you're really sad, don't make a decision, like especially a life altering, like don't get pissed off and say fuck you to your boss and walk out and then later on realize, oh shit, I got to feed my family tonight. You know, and it's those kind of things that I see is happening from the left, is they're using these triggering things, and the media, it has this down to a T, to know how to trigger these people, to get them out there and to start rioting and to start protesting. And it's funny watching some of these people, because you have logical people walking up to them, and you know, this guy was out there, I saw this video today, and he was out there protesting Donald Trump. Now this was back when they were trying to impeach him, and they were like, why do you guys want Donald Trump impeached? And he's like, because he's lied so many times to the American people, and all these lies has to stop. And he was like, what's the biggest lie that he's told you that you hate? And he goes, have that guy look it up, have that guy Google it. Should we have him Google it? And he's like, no, that guy's filming right now. If you're out here and you feel so passionately about why you're out here, then give me one example. And the guy couldn't give it. He just stood there dumbfounded. And that's how most of these people are. And a lot of these people out there protesting Roe v. Wade being overturned. And I understand my body, my choice. But at the same time, do you really know what you're protesting? Because it's not saying you can't have an abortion. What it's saying is the federal government can't tell you if you can or can't have an abortion.
Yeah.
It actually helps you. It benefits you. And your dumbass is out here fucking protesting.
Well, you know, I think we're all pissed off about really similar shit, but some of us are just really like thinking about, you know, how to do something, you know, that beneficial to offer, and who are just kind of being led into some provided solution. And, you know, and I think that this, like, I don't disagree with protesting, and I'm not right on the right, you know, by any means. Like, people, if anything, would probably label me like an extreme leftist and an extreme rightist, because like, you know, well, because I'm an anarchist. You know, so like, you know, I would align it very extreme ways with things that have to do with freedom on the left, and I would align in extreme ways with things that have to do with freedom on the right. Yeah, so but I don't know, like you were saying, when you sit down to have a logical conversation, it really shows you who's willing to agree to disagree, so that we can work together and live life and, you know, create a safe place for everybody, and who refuses is to agree to disagree and actually demands that everybody bend to their will, you know. And so that's the problems I have with on both the left and the right, you know. And I see it especially with certain issues, you know, on both sides. Like it's I'm like, freaking, there's just one side wants to bend you to their will in this way, and the other side wants to bend you to their will in that way. Like, and I'm just like, dude, you guys got to realize, you know, if you're not willing to give a little, you know, it's gonna explode. You can't just exist not willing to cooperate with and think everything's just gonna remain and flow okay.
Right, because we all have to live together whether we like it or not. And no matter what your radical beliefs are, at the end of the day, we're all fucking humans. We're all people, and we want the best for our family. We want the best for our neighbor. Well, maybe not our neighbors, because now they don't even let us fucking meet our neighbors, type of thing. It's like when I was little, man, my mom would send me over. I was 7 years old. Will you go ask the neighbor if we could borrow a cup of sugar, type of thing? I don't even know my neighbors' names. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and we share a fence.
As long
Yeah.
as you're the person who's open to your neighbor coming to you and asking for a cup of sugar, you know, it's like the story of the lady who asks her daughter to ask the neighbor for some salt. She's like, Mom, we don't need salt. And she's like, you know, that's okay. I know we don't need salt. I just want them to know that they can come to us if they need something. So we're all kind of like in this place of constant survival mode. And when we recognize that that's where they have pushed us, then we can react in unison, hopefully in a way that empowers us. And just having your own garden, providing your own veggies, because when you do start gardening in a legitimate, sacred form, like that's the thing about harvest, is there's always more than enough. You know, like we don't have to compete. This is the Garden of Eden. Like we can live in this homeostasis.
And it's so therapeutic too. I started a garden at the beginning of spring, or right before spring. I started planting when you're supposed to plant stuff, and I'm starting to harvest stuff right now. I had red potatoes, and I didn't realize I was gonna get so many. So like I'm pulling up one
Oh
plant,
my
and there's all
God.
these potatoes. I'm like, yes, dude, this is so awesome. Like I have enough for like more than a few dinners. Like it's so awesome.
To can it and have it in the winter or whatever it is. It's so amazing.
And another thing is, once we stop fighting with each other, then we're going to realize who the real enemy is, because they're pinning us against each other purposefully. And that's the whole thing, is as long as we are pointing at each other, we're never going to point at the person that's making us point at each other. And it's done by design, and it's fucking scary to see everybody fall into it. And I'm not gonna lie, I fell into it for a while. I was a big Q guy. I was all on board with Trump, and I'm like, fuck you lefties and all this shit, you know. Like I have like shirts that say liberals suck, and now I won't even wear it, because it's like all it is divisive. It's just it's adding more fuel to that fire, and I don't want to add more fuel to that fire. I want to talk about fun shit now. Like I don't want to get into politics anymore. Like I was just on a political show on Monday. They invited me on, and I was like, you know what? My head's clear enough. I can get on it, talk about some political stuff. And halfway through the show, I found myself getting angry at the left again. And I was like, fuck, what am I doing? And I don't know. But speaking of the left and the right, I'm gonna bring something up, because the left now hates Donald Trump so much that now we have this coming out. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, and I don't know who is paying this girl, but it is definitely not true.
My name is Lydia Dorm. My birthday is July 19th, 1978. I am the daughter of Donald J. Trump and Whitney Houston. There has been evidence, irrefutable evidence, of many different individuals, some of them which are including Linwood, Joe Flynn, and Jim Caviezel. All I am asking is that the right thing be done. Myself and my children have been abused. We've been terrorized. We have been gang stalked. There has been car explosions and car accidents. There is irrefutable evidence for all of this, in which many people, despite this irrefutable evidence, seem to think that I'm crazy. However, my father, a lot of people would say that he's crazy. So what I'm asking for right now is the right thing to be done. The right thing would mean, as my father said during his 4 years in office, the right thing would be admission and full disclosure. That is all I am asking for. When the right thing is done, everything else will fall into place. Thank you.
So they fucked up bad, because after I saw this, first off, after I wiped the tears from my eyes from laughing so hard, I decided to find out who this girl is. And she gave her birth date. So then I go to Whitney Houston's Wikipedia page, and it says when she's born. So at this girl's age, in order for this to be true, if it was true, that would mean Whitney Houston was 14 years old.
Oh my God.
When she gave birth to this,
Funny.
when she was conceived. Yeah, when she conceived.
right. So, but like, yeah, that age when she like spent 9 months being pregnant, like, just kind of.
And if Donald Trump's racist, he wouldn't fuck Whitney Houston anyway. So let's just put that out there.
Well, I mean, the slave owners used to fuck their slaves all the time. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's a rabbit hole. That is a fucking rabbit hole right there.
But I just find it hard to imagine, with as famous as Whitney Houston was, that there would just be no documentation of some 14-year-old pregnancy that she went through in the hit. Like, no one who knew her back then ever would have said anything about her having this kid ever throughout her entire career.
So Anonymous is making a comeback, and they're the ones out there trying to push this girl out into the public. And so they were saying that she was given up at birth to sex trafficking and all this stuff. So they are really, really desperate right now to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get back in there.
I mean, look at the January 6th trials. Like, this is insane.
Kangaroo court.
It's Nazi show trial, Stalin show trial, you know, like this is, I don't know.
They're just trying to keep the bad publicity momentum until the election year is what's going on.
And I mean, they're scared shitless of the primaries, you know, like basically what everybody is saying is that the Democrats have nothing to show for shit. They have nothing to fucking run on.
No, like, other than Orange Man bad, or these people are bad. These people are bad.
Like, what have they done?
They're all, is AOC old enough to run yet?
Like, even the most dedicated Democratic Party line towing people, I mean, they're looking at their bank accounts and everything, you know, and they're looking at the crime, and they're looking at like the war, and they're just kind of being like, this isn't my party. This isn't what we're about. Like, especially older Democrats from like the 60s and stuff. They're like, no, we're supposed to be the party of anti-war. Yeah. You know, we're supposed to be protesting against the conservatives and their corporate wars, you know, and so I think Democrats everywhere are being disenfranchised, you know, and they're scattering among more moderate, I suppose, or no, they're not even more moderate. It's that the left just keeps going so far left that these people who were already dedicated left are being left closer to the right, if not on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing all these people that were so anti right or anti-conservative, because I wouldn't consider myself right. Honestly, I wish I could just walk away from politics altogether, because both, it takes two fucking wings, right? Like the guys from the Occult Rejects said when they were on my show, it takes two wings to make a bird fly. So
it's a great show, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, those guys are awesome. I'm going to be on their show next week, I think. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is, and I've already beaten this to death, is the longer we fight with each other, the more that they're going to have a W over us, and the more enslaved we are going to become. The more rights they're going to take away from us, the more we're going to be dependent on them. And I don't want to see that happen. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying I'm a Republican, but right now I can agree a lot more with what the right is doing than I can agree with what the left is doing. So have you guys ever heard of this place called Tartaria?
I have, but probably not from where anyone would imagine I've heard of it from.
So the CIA actually came out and admitted that they erased and rewrote some of our history. And that history is of the Tartarian Empire. So Tartaria was thought to be a global and technologically advanced civilization that existed way before the 1800s up until the 1900s, where it was wiped out by a Great Reset, aka the Mud Flood. Then it was completely erased from the history books and rewritten in order to hide us from the truth. Now, I know this sounds crazy, and you're probably already running to the comments to call me some name, but I brought the receipts. It comes directly from the CIA's website. It was released in 1957. The Central Committee of the Communist Party issued a directive ordering the party's Tartar Provincial Committee to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten. Let us be frank, was to be falsified. I don't know if I'm saying Tartar right. And why would Tartaria be depicted in old world maps if it wasn't a thing? And Putin actually wants to release the real history of Tartaria. Now take a look at some of these buildings. We were told that these were built by people that rode in horse and buggies. We're expected to believe that they built things like this with a hammer and a chisel. Like, even if scaffolding was a thing, the precision, the accuracy. These people were way more advanced than we give them credit for. Like, these buildings are said to have been built in the 1800s. And just look at some of these inventions that they had. The math ain't mathin'.
So the cool thing about diving down Tartaria and mud floods and all that stuff is discovering the free energy that we had available to us and the healing energies that we had. A lot of these buildings are that we see with the big domes and like the towers, and you often will see an empty bell tower. Well, that emptiness was actually filled with either a mercury or no, they were usually filled with some sort of a mercury, which conducted. And so inside of these buildings and the way that they're designed, if you look at like the designs on the windows and stuff, looking awful, they're all geometric shapes and stuff that, like, you know, when you look at the windows and they look like that and stuff, and it's all designed to harness energy and harness power. And people would go into these buildings and actually heal themselves. And not only that, but this energy was able to create a different form of electricity and light up like these big, I don't know if you guys have ever looked into world fairs, like the Chicago World Fair is a huge one, or the San Francisco World Fair. And these big, huge, elaborate things that are like bigger than the Vatican were built supposedly within 2 years. And then as soon as they were, the fair was over, then they would just completely destroy them. And so people that have been digging into Tartaria have come to the conclusion that they tore these things down to keep us from these potentials in these energies. And one more thing I would like to bring up about these world fairs is the big, huge baby incubators that they would have. Like, where did all these babies come from? And so basically, in a nutshell, we had these civilizations and there was a great reset and mud floods, and basically we uncovered all these buildings and stuff, and we didn't build them, we just inhabited them and we took them for our own. And that's why, like, when you're walking in San Francisco and stuff and you like see like windows that look like half above ground and half not, or in half underground, and you're like, what the fuck, that doesn't even make any sense. Well, keep digging because there's more. I don't know. So just from that little bit that I've told you and the little history that girl had given us, what do you guys think?
Where do you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, like, I'll say that when she said, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this right, it totally rung a bell for me, because I remember reading James Michener's book Poland and seeing this come up in the book and not really knowing how to pronounce the word correctly. But it was, I remember it being really difficult to try to comprehend the people that were being discussed in the story, because, you know, Poland and Germany and stuff, or Hungary, whatever, was, you know, kind of like Eastern Europe. And like, I'm hearing the Tatars being talked about all the way over in Asia, you know, in Mongolia and stuff. But like, I started thinking about it. I watched a couple videos today, and there was a lot of talk about how they were like this pagan culture who were heavily suppressed by like the Teutonic Knights, or the Knights of the Templar or something, as they were expanding through Europe. But that the descendants of the kind of mixing, because that, you know, some of the Tartars would convert, you know, and then eventually they would mix in with the European. And it's like, when you start looking at like very, very native Ukrainian facial features and stuff, it starts to kind of look like this kind of like European Asian blend a little bit. They have like this different look than a lot of, you know, the European that's kind of like mainland and not so east. But they also, you know, they look different than that more heavily Asian, you know. But I feel like the Tartars that were also referred to as Mongolians, possibly, you know, like, see, the thing about it is, like, I was watching these videos and I was kind of listening to her and stuff, and I definitely see how, like, kind of aspects from both apply, you know, like, you know, I could definitely see history trying to be changed and race and stuff. Like, I have no doubt that there's plenty of stuff trying to be hidden from us, but if they did try to do that, they did a really poor job. Because, you know, you got guys like James Michener who are writing about the Tatars, and, you know, he's pretty mainstream novel writer, like,
There's
and
even professional fighters that say that they're native Tartarian.
right, you know, so it's
Mhm.
like, and I like the way that video that you were saying, that's kind of like the gatekeeping video. I did like how they kind of explained it, that there may have been some misrepresentation, you know, maybe some mixing of names and territories and things like that. Like, I mean, dude, like, keeping records throughout history, like, could you imagine, you know, like, everyone's different perspectives, all these different cultures, some of them don't even know each other exist, and them all like writing their different experiences down on like what, like tablets and scrolls and stuff like that, and then, you know, just trying to pass that on through, like, who knows how many I mean, because time for them moves so much slower than it moves for us. Like, the time that it took for things to change and for them to do a lot of stuff. And I mean, those buildings that I was looking at, they almost reminded me of something that would be 3D printed or something like that. So I don't know, like, I
So maybe
definitely,
it didn't take a long time. Maybe they were way more, like, way more advanced than we think. Like, in the last episode, I wanted to correct Sean because he was saying, like, back in the day they didn't have time to do things like play baseball and ride bikes and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, we don't actually have anything to base that off of because we weren't there. We don't know. And then another thing that you just brought up is keeping a record of all that stuff. What the fuck is underneath the Vatican in that in that library they have?
and the fact that people who claim to be the bringers of truth and light keep so much information hidden from the public, that's a straight contradiction right there. How you claiming to be some bringer of light and truth when you're keeping information hidden? I don't see, you know. And then, and if that's the case, if those who claim to be the bringers of light and truth feel like that it's in our best interest for information to be kept from us, that says that they don't fucking trust us. And then if they don't trust us, why should I trust them? Why should I trust somebody who doesn't trust me? Like,
100%.
trust is a mutual thing, you know. So I don't, you know, that's why I got a problem with authority, because authority always approaches things asserting itself dominant, as if what it is addressing, it should submit to it and respect it without it showing, you know, respect. And like, I don't work that way. Like, I don't approach people in an aggressive way. You know, I don't accost people, you know. And so, like, I don't wish to be accosted. And I think that accosting has a lot to do with lending itself to disrespect, or just a lack of respect in general.
Yeah, definitely. That old saying, don't stoop to their level.
Yeah.
Amber, what do you think about this whole Tartaria thing? Do you think it's possible? Do you think that
Oh, in my perspective, I definitely think that it's right and true, but it's kind of like, I don't know, because so long ago, the Judeo-Christian meets these pagan Tartars who are Asian Mongolians, and it's part of their history. Like, this isn't like mythology, like, by any means, in my perspective. The Tartar people obviously existed, and like, they were more pagan and ritualistic, and probably did have technology beyond what we saturated with
Judeo-Christian.
Judeo-Christian thought process. Like,
Judeo-Christianity is like the apple of spirituality.
yeah, it's like you can't have any sort of miracles, which are what connect you to nature. And like, even what you're saying, these buildings, like with contents of mercury, like mercury is a poison, but like poison and medicine is a fine line. So have mercury close to you, but not in you, you know, somehow this is creating this auric field of healing. You know, I
Right.
don't understand it, but I find it very sacred, and like I love to hear about it. Anybody who has any sort of
Dude, those rooftops, they remind me of this idea that I have to like defend from tech, you know, from like incoming rockets or drones or something, you know, like the all like the tallest buildings would have like EMP emitters, you know, so and they were emitting them away from everything below, you know, so it created like an EMP dome around the civilization so that like, you know, anything coming at it like would be knocked out or whatever. Because I think that like lasers and EMPs are going to be the weaponry of the future. I mean, you see in Terminator movies, you know, like bullets don't work so well on machines, but if you had like a directed EMP ray, you just be knocking that shit out without even causing destruction.
True. Definitely. So with the mercury being up and in those buildings, I mean, they're so freaking tall, but they acted as a conductor, right? So you have the antenna, and then in that tower you would have the mercury, and then usually most buildings would have gold and some sort of gold. So the combination of the three things somehow creates something. And I'd like to see what that is. I think we need to start looking more into magnets, because I think that magnets play a huge part in free energy and things that we could do. I don't know if you remember, Jeremy, when we were in high school, we had to do some sort of project, and I don't remember exactly what the project was or who it was for, but I made a tiny motor with magnets, and the closer I brought the magnets to each other, the faster the motor would spin, and then you bring it off and then it would slow down. And I'm like, why don't we have cars like that? And the teacher was like, well, because they can't make any money off of that. So what happened is Rockefeller decided he was going to buy up all these oil fields, and all these oil fields that didn't want to sell to him. He basically had enough money to where he was like, well, then I'm just going to price you out. I'm just going to sell shit so cheap that you're not going to be able to make a profit, and I'll be just fine. And then you're going to end up giving it to me, basically. So he bought all them out, and then he would have all this excess oil from it. And that's when he started refining oil, which is where we get tar for our streets, and, you know, our shoes and the soles on our shoes and stuff like that. And then he started making petroleum-based medicine. And with the petroleum-based medicine, he basically pushed out all natural remedies, so that when doctors are being taught and they're going to this school, they're being indoctrinated into this petroleum-based medicine way, so that when people leave there, they're leaving with a prescription to take these pills. They're not leaving there saying go get sunlight. They're not leaving there saying go be around nature, walk around with your feet in the grass, stuff like that truly does help people. When's the last time you went to the doctor and he asked you what you've been eating? Like, they don't. It's so frustrating.
they're very simple.
Yeah, the medical system is hella broken.
It's almost like going to a restaurant and they're just trying to turn the tables. It's really pathetic in that manner. No quality.
And then they're using petroleum for pesticides and poisons and stuff as well. So like they're using the same stuff to make medicine as they are poison. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
It's outrageous how much they charge for just basic pharmaceutical prescriptions. Like just a 2-week prescription that we recently had filled was, had we not whatever insurance,
Over $500
for 2 weeks worth of medicine.
Holy cow.
But the insurance covers it, so we didn't have to pay that.
Right.
But had we had to pay that, it's outrageous. There's no way we could afford that, you know, for 2 weeks of.
And then the thing is how do we know that the stuff that's being prescribed to us you know, is even what efficacious at all. You know, it's like we have no way to test our medicine. We have no way to test our food. We don't have personal relationships with our medical providers or our food providers. Like we don't even have personal relationships with our leaders, you know, or the decision makers. Like I feel like a lot of people who have personal relationships with law enforcement and authorities and judges and things oftentimes like get off the hook more than the rest of us. They kind of hold themselves at this like elite social status than the rest of the people. Like I don't know, every offspring of a law enforcement officer I think I've ever known, maybe one or two, but most of them that I've ever known have just thought they could get away with fucking murder, you know, and it's just I don't fucking I don't get it, you know.
Well, Highway Patrol Officer Tim Moon, who used to live in Hathaway Pines, he was the next door neighbor to my grandparents, and so we would break bread with him all the time. He would be over at my grandparents' house, and they would watch their stupid NASCAR races or whatever lame stuff they were into. But you know, I grew a relationship with him. And I remember being in high school one time and I was going snowboarding and I saw him parked on the side of the road in his Bronco or whatever it was that he was driving back then. And I forget who was with me. It doesn't matter. It was like Chad Borian and Will Bias or somebody like that. And I'm like, watch this. And I just slammed on the gas. And I went past him going like 95 miles an hour and woo, pulls me over and he walks up to the car and he sees it's me and he's like, God damn it, Brad, slow the fuck down. And then he went and got back in his car. So there you go. Been anyone else, right?
and then just that is the microcosm of corruption. Just think about the shit that's going on the grand scale. You know,
Whoa.
some chicks going to prison for committing crimes that involve nobody.
Yeah, Mrs. Maxwell. Dude, check this out. Hunter Biden's iPhone was leaked on Telegram a few weeks back, right?
Right, yeah, I remember that.
I downloaded a lot of it on a external hard drive, not the porn stuff because I but like I downloaded a bunch of files. I still haven't gone through them yet. I still haven't gone through them because I was hoping to find like that diamond in the rough or whatever. Now they're saying that you can go to prison for looking at the contents of that phone or of that laptop. However, this motherfucker's still walking around doing whatever he wants.
I don't know. I heard that he was being charged for something over an illegal gun possession or something. Like that his like.
But he lied on his application.
And then had some chick dump it in like a garbage near a school or some shit.
It's incredible the things these people get away with just because of who they are. And man,
they think they get away with it. I mean, maybe momentarily he's not being charged with a crime, but like the social humility I hope like that he's humiliated by what's going on.
And I imagine the damage that is done from just people seeing the things that these people do, and you know, and how it affects their perspective on how they conduct themselves, you know, because like we were talking about earlier, a lot of people aren't really thinking for themselves. They're just kind of following what the authorities are telling them is the thing that's going to get them where they want to go. So, you know, like not only are they listening to the authorities, but they're mimicking the celebrities and they're making a fucking celebrity out of this guy. I made the worst joke earlier today. Like, something was coming up about like where alpacas were from and something about Peru, and so like it's so bad, but like just because of the celebritism of all this shit, the first thing that pops into my head is, what does Hunter Biden say when he goes to Peru? Alpaca macraca. It's so bad, dude. It's so stupid. But like, you know, I got this kind of cheesy, you know, brain where I think of stupid shit like randomly, and because it's so prominent in the media and everything, like my corny brain makes a stupid joke, out of
I
just
thought it was pretty funny.
but like, dude, it's kind of relevant, like, and that's probably why I think of it.
Sensational.
But
Yeah.
dude, petroleum. You're talking. I want to say something about petroleum before we moved on. Like you were talking about it. I've always had like this adversity to petroleum. Like I've always understood that it comes from the stuff that's being like sucked out of the earth, and that's always seemed to me pretty vampirical. There's also like prophecies from ancient tribal peoples that talk about digging in the earth for valuable minerals and stuff, but kind of bringing about the end of civilization. But like, I've had this theory about the whole petroleum industry, and it's fucking out there. So I think you might actually like it. But it just supposing that the earth were spinning, I mean, just hypothetically speaking, it was this big chunk of like thing spinning through space or whatever, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. I'm stretching your boundaries.
Good, I like that.
And to me, like another thing that spins and moves is an engine, like, and it's got like these moving parts, and it's got like this fuel, and it's got this lubricant, and these different aspects to this engine with moving parts. And then I was like, man, like if the earth were a spaceship, and it was actually the spaceship itself was the engine, and like all these plates were these moving parts of this engine, and like I was like, well, what would this oil that's all throughout the crusts and stuff be? Well, it's like a lubricant. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, well, in this engine it needs lubricant too, because it's got these moving parts and stuff. And then I was like, well, okay, if we're taking all the lubrication out of the engine, what happens to an engine if you don't keep oil in it?
It seizes.
So I'm like, just supposing that it was like this solid-ish spinning thing, kind of like an engine, going around this giant nuclear engine, like, and you took all the lubrication out of this fucking like crazy advanced organic engine. Holy shit, we're gonna cause some fucking major damage. If that were the case, it would be really bad.
I definitely see where you're coming from, but here's a huge misconception about oil is they want us to think that it's a scarcity, right? That's how they can charge so much for it. And then that's why they called it fossil fuels. Like you expect me to believe that like all these dinosaurs left all this oil that's still been keeping us going. So there's actually, it documented, this happens where people have abandoned oil fields, come back a few years later, and they're full again, and they're pumping oil out of them.
Right, because the oil flowing through all this land mass, kind of like the oil in an engine flows through the engine and stuff. And when it's like we're really small on this engine that we can't even imagine the size of, and so we're like this little mosquito drawing this little patch of oil, like out of like a vein. And like the vein kind of dries up because we get real greedy, but then we stop pumping, and all of a sudden, the vein kind of fills back in again. It's just the time scale of the lifespan of a planet is like pretty unfathomable to the lifespan of a human. So it's like the processes, like, I don't know, I kind of always thought of the oceans, whether it's flat or round or whatever, I always thought of like the oceans as the digestive system, and like the weather as like this immune system, and the lava, the magma as the blood, and the oil as the shit, I guess, like it's like, I mean, it's kind of like a waste product, but it's also a lubricant. And like oil, the waste product from the earth, is used as a lubricant in engines and stuff. And no matter how much oil there might be in the earth, like, I don't know, dude, if you got a car and you just take like a little teeny little syringe of oil out each day, but you're not putting more back in, or like, I don't know, I'm sure the earth makes it at some kind of rate as well. I imagine it makes it. And like, so that brings me back to like being stacked on top of each other, living and stuff. And like, there are these equations that they've found that have to do with like how much acreage, whether it's vertical or horizontal or however you divvy it up, but there's a certain amount of acreage that it takes to like feed and house and process the waste from one individual human being, so that it actually gets processed and doesn't become a poison in the environment. And so like, I don't understand why these people who want to control, or hey man, if they're really for the betterment of humanity and stuff, we need to be applying these equations to figure out like how we do need to be like living, whether it's urban or rural. How much land do we need to be dedicating? Like, shouldn't the farms be spread out through like buildings, like vertical farms in cities, like instead of being like, oh, we're gonna have all our farms in Nebraska and or wherever the fuck the farms are and shit, like getting back to local and stuff, because then you don't end up in a situation where we're overlooking percentages of human flesh and feces and stuff in products that we're consuming and stuff. Like,
Man, I went to the dump with Beth the other day, and it just it was a landfill, and it just made me disgusted, like how much waste is out there. And it's not, and all they do is they just cover it with dirt, and you drive right over it and pile more on top of it and then cover it with dirt and drive and it just keeps going.
yeah.
And if we were not consuming these products that are just poison for us in the first place, and that's then that cuts down everything 50%, because if we're just using natural stuff, that like you eat an apple, you throw the core on the ground, then you might actually grow another tree. Instead, a bag of chips, and then throw it on the beach, and then all of a sudden you have like your beaches are just littered, and you have penguins and whatever getting their heads stuck in these
packaging is a whole thing on its own, dude. Like,
which is also petroleum based.
Right. And it should be literally start to be looked at as a crime for these packaging companies to use non-sustainable textiles. There's plenty of things, like I've been telling weed growers for years, that if they started a business where farms paid them to legally remove the waste material from their weed farms, then they could set up shop, process it into textiles, and then sell them. Then you're having dual income from both ends. You're getting paid to collect your raw materials, and you're getting paid to sell the product that you process them into.
Did you know that it was an ugly car, but did you know that Henry Ford actually made a car out of hemp, and it was stronger than anything that we have today? Like, he was hitting it with a hammer and it was not cracking. And how much hemp do you guys waste, or like byproducts from your weed farms? You could make so much freaking money.
All the stuff that's not sold is wasted, because now there's laws in place in some places that require it to be destroyed and not reprocessed.
So if they were really worried about the environment, don't you think that they'd be looking into things like that?
And this is the stuff where then I start asking the questions like, how are these typical average people with no college degrees, no years in politics or environmental science or anything like that, like how are we coming up with these ideas and putting these things together to be like, like if we're really in the situation that they're claiming we're in, like, why are we still spending billions and shit on war and weapons that just blow shit up and destroy things, so we have to spend more money? But so it's because so that we have to spend more money. That's why. You know what I mean? So like, it's really like, why aren't we fucking abandoning currency, banding together as a people of the world, to like, first of all, arrest every politician that has its finger on the button that could end civilization as we know it. I think that just holding humanity hostage like that is a crime against humanity. Like, there should be no person or people who could actually make a decision that could end life as we know it for us all. There's way too many of you and me and us to allow some fucking elitists to decide whether the rest of the world gets to fucking go on living. No fucking way. We all turn the fucking gears. They all should be kissing our fucking asses. And I say fucking, I don't care. Arrest them, hang them. I don't give a fuck. But get them the fuck out of the way of doing damage to people like us and our potential future children, the generations.
They don't look at us as people, bro. There's a clip that I seen a while back where Obama is giving a speech and he says the average person isn't smart enough to think on their own. They need us. And what, motherfucker? We would be so much better off without you. You know what we would do? We would adopt a bartering system. We would have communities, actual communities, not these fucking cities where you're scared to walk down the street. Yeah. Like it's
and you're scared to walk down the street because you're being looked at like you got something that they don't, and it's these people who are saying we're all too stupid to make decisions for ourselves, or are trying to make us too stupid to make decisions for ourselves. It's like we've all been too stupid to make decisions for ourselves, but when you grow up, that's when you're no longer too stupid to make decisions for yourself. I hate to say it, but like I don't see a lot of people who aren't too stupid to make decisions for themselves. So I understand why the systems that are in place are in place. But if you perpetuate the stupidity, you're not going to fucking do anybody any good. You're going to keep the systems in place that are keeping control, which is good for the few elitists, who just make all of us poorer and poorer, and and hate each other more and more over our differences. Like you said, these people out protesting, they can't even describe like the stuff that they're protesting over. It's because they're fucking pissed off about the same shit we're pissed off about. You know what I mean? Only like if you're fucking thinking critically, that burning down the fucking neighborhood liquor store or like fighting with each other, even fighting with each other isn't going to solve it. Look what the Civil War got us. Look where the fuck we are. Look what happened immediately after the Civil War. Like, we're still arguing about reparations. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I agree with you. I don't think much of any of this would be an issue right now if we would have removed the fuckers, way back then who were causing the problems. The people who were bending to the bankers, the people who were trying to keep people stupid and uneducated. Like, it just, I don't know. Maybe it's taken us time to evolve.
The whole thing down. I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's got to be biblical.
One day.
I really liked hearing what the occult rejects had to say on your show the other day. That was really enlightening. I felt like you got a lot out of it too.
Yeah, dude, those are really good people. And and I've always known that the elitists are fully into these occultic things. And now that I'm diving into mud floods and Tartaria and the things that they're keeping from us, and I wanted to bring this up earlier too. It's funny because we were talking about like the things that they're keeping from us and doing behind closed doors. And back then they made magic like such a taboo thing, and like you can't practice it. And yet those people, the same priests and everybody that are telling you can't do this, are going behind closed doors and doing it. And it's just one of those things where it's like your parents are like, do as I say, not as I do, but don't actually tell you why they're doing it. They just say, hey, this is bad. Well, why is it bad? It's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the society that we live in right now. And unfortunately, I disagree with you. A lot of people are too stupid to make decisions on their own, because how many motherfuckers ran out there and got the jab without knowing anything about it?
Yeah, I mean, fear can do a lot. Fear.
A lot.
And
I
fear.
got fired from a job because I didn't do it.
Our whole
A job
lives.
I really loved.
Our whole lives.
Good for you.
I had a passion for my job and I got fired from it. It's okay.
Well, that's a very hard thing to do, and I want to commend you for doing that, because that was
only one.
I respect their boundaries, you know, but at the same time, that county went really far. Right before we moved away, they were voting to have the signs on the business door that would be red, yellow, or green.
It was a red stop sign shape. It was a yellow triangle or diamond or something, like a caution sign, and it was a green circle.
For fully vaxxed, halfway vaxxed, and unvaxxed.
Fully vaxxed customers and employees was the green circle. The yellow was employees vaxxed, customers don't have to be vaxxed. The red stop sign was nobody has to be vaxxed, employees or customers. So they were forcing businesses to expose employees and customers' personal medical information to the public in order to be ridiculed. And I mean, it's like, dude, it was this business form of the yellow star.
Yeah, that's what I was just, when you were describing that, I was like, wow, it sounds an awful lot like concentration camps.
Dude.
I was definitely ready to walk away.
Was that in Berkeley?
That was in Ukiah.
In Mendocino County.
Yeah. The pressure, the mounting pressure against me, you know, it's oil and water. Because if that's what the majority of the population there wants, who am I to tell them? You know, I stand my ground. I'm able to articulate my point. And even a lot of the people, okay, so the people who were there before me, they were younger than me. And what had happened was the employer set up as soon as it was available for everybody to get vaccinated. And so these kids, they just got vaccinated without question. And then I come in and then it was like, oh, you're not vaccinated. And was like, honestly, that's not your business. I'm not going to tell you whether I am or not. You know, and at that point, they were like, oh, then you agree not to work here. And I'm like, no, you're firing me on a discriminatory basis.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If I had a lawyer who was willing to put up a case because they fired me, you know, because I wouldn't disclose my vaccination status. And I'm okay with walking away from being in a business where I'm going to be bullied into medical procedures that I don't feel comfortable with, or looked down upon for not receiving, you know, whatever it was.
Or even looked down upon for not being willing to expose that information, but for holding the standard of privacy, you know?
Yeah.
To the people who had already gone through the procedure, who worked there, about like our position, they were like, wow, we never even thought about that. Like we just kind of got the appointments and got our vaccinations. Like the younger generations, like it's just going to the doctors and getting a prick. You know, you get a certificate. Yay. You know what I mean? You're getting incentives. You're getting percentages off your grocery bills. You know what I mean? Like,
but they're charging more than $500 for 2 weeks of a medication, you know, for health reasons. Like, how does this add up? Like, how are they giving away this one thing and then they're like charging an arm and a leg for another? You know, when one that they're charging an arm and leg for is being prescribed by a doctor for health purposes, and the one that they're actually giving incentives to get for free is this mystery gutter sludge from fucking corporate pharmaceutical Hydra beast head of fucking apocalypse, man. Like, dude, I don't even think it's an individual. It's an energy working through humans who are parts of these functioning components of the beast that is emerging.
Yeah.
Oh yes, give me more, give me more. Now you're speaking my language. No, man, the bad thing about it is, and I don't find any satisfaction in saying I told you so, but I fucking told you people so. Like, I've been telling you people for 2 fucking years, do not do this. Do not, when they come out with the vaccine, do not get it. I told my parents, do not get it when it comes out. Brad, you're such a conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 blah. If the government had our best interest at heart, then how come we don't have any alcohol or tobacco shortages? How come the liquor stores didn't close down during the pandemic? You couldn't go to church, but you could go to the fucking liquor store. Okay, yeah, you really have my health in your best interest. And another thing is, and it's really sad, is these blood clots that people are getting. They're not really blood clots. Our friend that has a podcast, Bootleg Media Booty, she was at a park and she was talking to this guy, an older gentleman who had just had these so-called blood clots pulled out of him. And so they were having a discussion and she asked, can I see? Because he said he had pictures and stuff. He shows her the pictures of this. She actually posted it online. And it's not blood clots, it's fucking cartilage buildups with like spikes coming out. It's turning into bone. And another thing that's fucked up is people that are dying now that have been fully vaccinated and got their boosters and all that fun stuff. The people that are working in these crematory, or not crematories, in these cemeteries, when they put the embalming fluid in you, to make yourself look pink so you're not white, so that when your friends and family see you for the last time, you don't look like a corpse. It's not going through their body like it used to. So what they're having to do is they're having to go through and inject it in all these different areas where the skin is going to be visible, so that they can put color into it, because normally they would just put it through and it would cover the whole body. Now there's so much blockage that they can't even do that. And it sucks when you tell people, and you're in the farm and you're that chicken and you're looking up at the slaughterhouse and you're saying they're going to kill us, and everybody's like, no, you're fucking crazy. And
they're going to beat us.
And then you become dinner.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I think is happening. I don't want to end on a bad note, you guys. So please tell me something amazing that happened to you this week.
Dude, I mean, my favorite day of the week was yesterday.
What'd you guys do?
We went out to Camp 9.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went out to like the third little spot where the rocks are that you can jump off of. And there's that like fat pool, that you can swim around in and shit. And I don't know, we're just like playing with poi, and like we got this little boom box that we brought out there with us. I don't know, like it's just so freeing, like to get in the water, and like, I don't know, just all the rocks and stuff, and seeing how everything like in nature fits together without like force or intention. And like, I don't know, there's just something that's different in having presence in that kind of power, that can make doing nothing in it a great experience.
And it's so healing for the mind too, isn't it?
Yeah,
especially
clearing. Just I don't know, it's like it's a place to find enjoyment.
Absolutely. I need to get up there, you guys. I need to come up there and spend a weekend out in nature with you guys, doing some fun shit before the summer's over.
We'll go shooting too.
Oh, dude, don't say that on my podcast. I'm a felon and I'm not allowed to be around guns.
Well, then
especially that one that's in my closet right there. I cannot be around it.
And we won't be going shooting with you, because I would not put you in jeopardy.
No, I don't give 2 shits, dude. Let's go shooting. It's gonna be a blast. You guys, I think we crushed it. What do you think?
Oh, dude, I had a great time. Like, I didn't even realize how much time has passed. Like, it's just, I'm so thankful that you hit me up to be on the show tonight. I mean, everything just falls into place, like I've been thinking a lot about coming on the show, and all the stuff that that I've been thinking about. And like when it came down to it and you hit me up, I just want to shoot the breeze.
Man, it was awesome. And anytime you want, there's something you want to talk about, hit me up. We'll bring you back on the show. And I got some homework for you. I'm giving you a week to put out your first video.
Oh my God.
Force yourself to do it. And then once you do it, you're going to feel so good about yourself. Even if you only get like a few likes. If I wasn't shadow banned, I would help you guys blow the fuck up. But I went from thousands of likes to like less than 100. But
it's not even about likes as much as it is views. Like,
well, that's what I mean.
Whether you like it or not, I just want people to be able to see it. You know what I mean? And like, I don't want to force it in people's face, but I also don't want to be like downranked, you know? So it would just be nice to find some kind of like fair distribution of media on the internet somewhere.
Yeah, it's disheartening when you spend a lot of time on something and then you put it up and you're like, only 17 people saw that. Like,
right.
I spent 3 hours on that. Like, what the fuck?
And I'm like, man, it's got to be like just not showing up, because I got a feed on YouTube and I see all these videos from people I follow and stuff, and I just wonder in my head like how much of the stuff that we put out ends up in people's feeds.
No, I will say this: the audio podcast version, like the Apple, the Spotify, and the iHeart, all that is I haven't plateaued yet. That's it. Every week we get more and more listeners. So fuck you, Meta. You're not holding me back. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. White Rabbit ain't going nowhere. Shut us down. I'm coming back like a motherfucker.
That's right.
All right. Tell us more where people can go find you, Instagram handles you want people to know about. Obviously, cosmicfractalmagnitudes.com.
We got FOSAD, FOESAD 5150 Instagram. We got
you could check out our FPV profiles on Instagram and Facebook at FOSAD FPV and Ratchet FPV. We fly some drones. I like to build racing drones, and I love flying in the goggles and shit. It's a hell of an experience. And so we share some of the videos that we make on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram on the channels. If you're into VR, virtual reality, like 360 pictures and shit, you can check out Immersion VR on Facebook and Instagram. We post like a lot of trippy pictures, different places we go. And then, I don't know, yeah, YouTube, FOSAT 5150. I don't know, like if you're on Twitter, I don't know if many people are anymore, but I've had all these issues. So now
you're part of the shadow band club.
Dude, like I mean, I've gone through 3 Twitter accounts now. I'm something like 5150 infamous. I don't know. It's whatever, dude. If you want to check us out, you should check out the website. That's where our art is. You know, these are digitally enhanced reproductions of original pieces of art made with real plant material that we press and dry and then arrange in botanical designs and preserve in epoxy resin on surfaces. So like whether you're a fine art collector or just want a dope t-shirt, go check out cosmicfractalmagnitudes.com.
Absolutely. And enter promo code RABBIT and you will receive 13% off.
13.
Your order.
Right.
Precious.
Amber, Jeremy, it is always a pleasure talking to you guys, whether it's on this microphone or not. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming on White Rabbit. Everybody, you know where you can find me. I'm on every major platform, because if you're listening to this, then you're listening to this. Go check me out, because I'm shadow banned like a motherfucker. It is White Rabbit. It is WH1TE_rabbit. And the T is replaced with a 7. I'm about to get kicked off of that account. So be sure and follow my backup, Catalyst Jones, on Instagram. And let's tell Mark Zuckerberg to go fuck himself together, because we ain't going nowhere.
Fuck you, Mark. Fuck you, Mark. Fuck you, Mark. Stay up, Catalyst. Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely. That has been another episode of White Rabbit. Keep digging down those rabbit holes.
Turn this down quick if you don't like this. It could be a medley of a boom, 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 boom.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.